I'm going to put up an image of just a couple things. We're going to talk about chakras, and we're going to talk about contacts and points where basically the signs that are referred to in the word on understanding signs. So we'll take a look here. First of all, you can see this is the picture of a head, and I'll just point out a few things. Here again, a lot of what I say may be confirmation to things that you're feeling. You may know this. If not, maybe this will confirm things that you've felt, but you just haven't been looking for it. And a lot of what the Lord is trying to do in what He's bringing to us in the Word is to bring an awareness to us of what is happening, what is unfolding, and we just need to start looking for it and start recognizing it. There are times when the physical symptoms are so strong that you physically think that you are ill, or because the signs can be so very, very strong, whether it's signs in your heart from a direct assault of the enemy that can literally make you feel like you're having a heart attack, or something in a sign in your knee that can be so strong it feels like you broke your knee, but yet that's a sign of your submission before the Lord. So signs can be very strong, but on the flip side of it, they'll be very, very subtle. I would equate that to the still small voice of the Holy Spirit. When you woo the Holy Spirit and you quiet yourself and you're listening, and sometimes the word comes and it's just so very, very subtle that if you're not listening for it and looking for it, you'll miss it completely. And I found that to be the case with signs in the body, that there are times when they come and they're very subtle, and your reasoning would probably say that, well, that's just my imagination, or I thought I had this, I thought I saw that, but it's just imagination, and it really was not your imagination. But here again, it's just cultivating that part of us that just is listening, and we're watching, and as things come through in the Spirit, we register them, and then we try and draw a parallel. Whether it's for a classic example, we were driving back to our home early this afternoon, and we were driving through an area where we had lived some time back. That area happens to be very heavily entrenched in devil power, and it's nothing obvious. It looks like just a great neighborhood or area, but in the spirit realm it's completely different. And we're driving along, and I had forgotten that we were driving back in that close vicinity. The minute we got very close into that area, we both started getting headaches and other physical signs, and we realized, oh, we're back in this area again. It was the prevailing spirit of that area and the reaction of that spirit to our presence. How we deal with it generally is to get very aggressive and very focused and speak a word against that spirit. There are times when the Lord has given clear guidance on the name of that spirit, or at least the description of that spirit, so we could actually deal with it specifically. But oftentimes we don't get that, so we're in a wrestling match until we really are able to clearly discern exactly what that prevailing spirit is. And that's going to be the case the more that you come alive, the more that you are renewed in your being. You'll find that your presence, and we've talked about this in the words, your presence evokes a response because you're Christ. And that is true. That is the truth. It doesn't matter if you're shaking hands with someone walking through a building or what you're doing. Your spirit, as carrying the presence of the Lord, is beginning to evoke the response. And here again, we know the devil's out there saying, have you come to torment us before the time? But we know the time is here. The time is here to see judgment on a broad scale. And so much of the resistance that we deal with is the spirit realm that is resisting the kingdom, that is resisting His lordship, and they come up, and it's something that you have to deal with. Point out a few things. Right here is the throat, and this is where you have a throat chakra. Now, I'll deviate for a second. Chakras are basically energy points within the human body, and I'll show you this. Little colorful New Age looking design. But basically, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because we're not really focused on this by any means, but chakras are a valid situation. They are points of energy. Here again, I think we've talked about the fact that we are energetic beings. We think of ourselves as fairly dense and this mass, but the truth of it is, on the higher vibrational levels of spirit, that there is actually greater density to the entities, to the spirits, to the angelic realm than we have. They have a greater mass or density, but they're vibrating at a much higher frequency. We're vibrating at a very low frequency, and because of that, all of this seems very dense, but it really is not. Nevertheless, just pointing out here, these are the areas where we receive energy through our being. And you've got the second chakra is dealing with the sexual energy. The third chakra, the yellow one, deals with the mind. A lot of times, if you're looking and you see a lot of yellow around an individual in their aura, then you realize they're very mental. And I remember that takes me back to a story when my youngest daughter started 6th grade, and at that time she was very sensitive, and she went into class. She came home that day. It was her first class day, and said, Dad, this was very interesting, but I was watching the teacher and he had all this yellow around him, and then every once in a while I'd see some pink. And I said, well, that's because he's very much functioning out of his mind, and the pink is his excitement. He just gets so excited. The fourth chakra is shown as green. That's your heart chakra. A lot of times the assault that would come against you comes in that area, whether it's knives that hit in the back or the heart in the front. The fifth chakra is blue. That is the chakra where you are speaking the word. And oftentimes I've noticed that when a spirit of hate hits, it hits in the throat until it just almost strangle you. You lose your voice and everything. It's very strong. The sixth chakra here is very interesting because that's your third eye. And if you go back to this image here, that would be right up above the eyebrows. And I can show you another one here. This is kind of an odd-looking image. But this actually, as strange as this looks, the chakras are like little mini vortices or vortexes. And that would be your third eye, which is connected to the pineal and pituitary gland. Very intense seasons of waiting on the Lord that we'll get up and we'll have a very strong red dot right above our eyebrows, between our eyes, and sometimes it'll last for days. That is right here. Now, a lot of the headaches that we've noticed, especially when you hit oppressive areas, will either come right here in the sixth chakra, or very common all the way across the forehead, almost like if you can imagine a rectangular block just laying over your forehead, because that is your area of perception. And in fact, that was one of the things we noticed today as we were driving back, because this one region, very oppressive. You go through that area and it's just like people are blind. There's just like a block all the way over their forehead. And oftentimes we'll feel headaches there, or we'll feel them here. Another area is when you go to the top of your head. At the very top here is your openness to the Lord, and at times you'll feel, you'll feel a headache there. You'll feel a clamp, and that's something that's trying to block the flow and your connection with the Lord. Here again, the way to deal with any of these things that are oppressive is to get very aggressive, very focused, and just reject it. We have a tremendous power and ability to reject. The problem is that we give into our fears and we think, oh, this thing is real, and I'm oppressed. I've got this headache. I can't get rid of this. Oh my gosh! And here again, that's just the programming of unbelief that we have learned that God has been very diligent to stay after us to unlearn. And we've talked about that in the words before, where it's so important that we unlearn our unbelief that we've learned.